Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Commexis Cast Daily for Tuesday, November 14th, 2017. All the news you need to know from our inbox to yours. I'm Matthew McGroarty, the videographer and podcaster here at Commexis, and today I am joined by Philip Brooks, the lead strategist at Commexis.
Good afternoon.
And Len Ward, the president of Commexis.
Good afternoon.
So our first story today, Adobe has some new numbers and interesting numbers about this holiday season.
Yeah, so there's a lot to parse here, but I think the biggest number is what's really in the actual subject line, which is that email could generate up to $20 billion this holiday season. So they're really seeing a direct correlation between email marketing and the retail connection for Cyber Monday deals, and actually in retail purchases as well. But they're estimating that $7.50 of every $10 spent by consumers online goes through the Adobe Experience Cloud, meaning that it's in some way going through an email process. So that's a really impressive link.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at just how people are spending money online, and a couple of the other predictions they have out there is that they believe that this Cyber Monday will be the largest shopping day in history, with $6.6 billion in sales. I mean, wow. and if you're Amazon and you're Walmart and you're those companies, I mean, Amazon's got to get the lion's share of that, right? I mean, they're the number one company in the marketplace right now for retail. I can't imagine a whole lot of people deviating from that. They've already created that habit by using Prime all year long. So
Walmart will make a charge this year, though. I think this will be the first year. They're not threatening them, but this will be the first year I think Walmart is going to make a little bit of a move, and I think it'll be more than a blip on the screen. I really do.
And the one last thing I just want to point out is this is the first year that they believe that smartphones and tablets are actually going to be higher usage for Cyber Monday shopping than desktops. So it's kind of mirroring what we've seen from web traffic in general and people's engagement with brands and things like that. They're actually using mobile much more than desktop, but they still think that that 54% of people will now be on actual handheld devices, which is huge. I still think, I mean that's shocking to me because I feel like most people are still browsing on their computer when they're on Cyber Monday. But
yeah, I mean, I'm surprised, but I also think, I mean, as somebody who uses Amazon Prime, sometimes it is more convenient just to use my phone than it is to. I mean, if I'm doing
there with the app, it's great.
So. But yeah, that's an impressive number.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I'll just say about that's something from a marketing perspective. If you're not doing email marketing, I don't care if you're B2B, B2C, I don't care what you're selling or who you're talking to, you're making a grave mistake because to this day, it still converts sometimes better than anything out there. And it's just absolutely a platform you have to have marketing dollars on right now.
Yeah, and I think we've seen with like some of these events like Prime Day and things like that, if you don't get those prices out there in front of somebody, and the best way to do that is email, you're not going to be able to draw in the buzz that you think you're going to need to get you over that hump for the big days like Black Friday and Cyber Monday. People need to know what's for sale before that day because they're figuring out their budgets and stuff.
Yeah. Well, our second story from today comes from eMarketer's Rimma Kats, and it is the power of CoViewing. So the Interactive Advertising Bureau did a study on people basically who co-view, so they watch alongside somebody else on OTT devices. So that would be things like Hulu, things like Netflix. So basically they noted that how people talk about and feel about products or brands they see, and even how they can change someone's mind about them while they are co-viewing. So the firm noted co-viewing on OTT devices tends to occur among young viewers with strong brand engagement, which doesn't surprise me too much. Over 56% of respondents who co-view OTT content said they talk about the products and brands they see, and nearly 45% said they would change someone else's mind about a product or brand during a co-viewing session. And some respondents also indicated that they may be likely to change their own minds about a product or brand when co-viewing. And eMarketer estimated that there will be 193.3 million U.S. OTT video service users this year, equating to 70.8% of all internet users.
Wow.
So yeah, some interesting numbers if you're looking to advertise on a Hulu or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious if the over-the-top viewing is this inclusive of just smart TVs, or is this people watching on their laptops, watching on mobile devices, tablets, things like that?
From what I understood, I'd have to see the full report. They compared this just OTT devices in general compared to linear TV, which makes me think it is smart TVs and phones, etc. But I'd have to check the full report to that, and I'll do my best to link that in the description as well.
I have to say that Netflix has become tremendously more accessible. Not only to, like my mom uses it now, and my wife, because it's now an app within Comcast, the box. So, I think that's going to continue to build how many people are watching stuff and watching stuff at the same time, because families are using it together.
Yeah. eMarketer and MediaPost both had 2 separate breakdowns of a study from Deloitte, which was conducted by Ipsos Mori, about some smartphone usage rates and some other interesting statistics. So the study found that most people check their device approximately 47 times a day. And for younger audiences, such as myself and also a little bit younger than me, that number is 86 times a day, which is up from 82 times reported in 2016. So a lot of phone checking. And meanwhile, nearly 9 in 10 respondents said they check their phone within an hour of waking up in the morning, and almost as many do so right before they go to sleep. They said that these patterns have been consistent over the years. That doesn't surprise me very much at all.
Those numbers are way off.
Yeah.
They're checking it within 2 minutes of them being awake.
Basically,
if the number's 40, it's 140. If you guys are 80, you're 160. And those numbers are off. It's just walk around anywhere in public. And
I look at that phone before I even say good morning to my wife.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, even what surprises me about the number too is like when I think about it, I'm not like, obviously I'm checking for stuff like that, but I mean, the amount of times I just check the time on my phone because I don't have a watch, it's like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to check when I wake up, see what time it is, see if there's anything like that.
I wear a watch, and I swear I check the phone more than I wear this. It's unbelievable.
And there are a couple stats about people replacing their phone, so I'll go over this, and then Philip can dive in with a couple more stats. But nearly 2/3 of consumers will still replace their phones every 2 years, despite the lack of device subsidies, according to the study. And 63% of consumers have visited a carrier store in the last year, making retail stores an important connection to the mobile consumer. And almost 1 in 5 consumers has visited a carrier store in the last month.
And you can thank Apple for that, for making all of these releases for new versions of their phones into events. I think because at least with some of the more recent iterations of the iPhone, some of the changes to functionality haven't particularly been staggeringly different. I think we've seen leaps and bounds in the competitive markets for Samsung phones. They're able to, they're doing some of the same things that Apple phones do, but better. And I think, really, if you're an Android versus an iOS person, that's a whole nother, that's become a nice little
a contentious argument, to say the least.
So, just one of the stat I think of this that jumped out at me the most is that smartphone penetration is 82% overall, with ages 18 to 24 having I'm going to make sure I state this correctly, 93% penetration rate for that age group. That means 93% of the people in that age group in the U.S. have a mobile phone.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's, if you're not targeting your marketing to make sure that's part of your funnel, you're really missing out. So, one of the things we always look at is, if your site's not mobile friendly, Google's already going to ding you, but that's just part of how it can be injuring your business model. And then here's just another point. 92% of consumers are reporting using their phone while shopping. So again, if your brand targets that 18 to 24 demographic and you're not targeting stuff via mobile, you're really making a huge error.
Yeah, and on that, before you say that, it's funny because I don't know if you noticed lately, some stores when you're shopping, they're actually jamming your signal a little bit when you're in. And we've noticed a little, because when you're doing price shopping, my wife and I were looking at at furniture. I don't know why, but we're looking at furniture. So she's there, and we're noticing in certain stores you can't get any signal whatsoever to start doing price checking. So I don't know if something's playing in there, but
I've seen a couple local bookstores. When I've been out with my sister a couple of times, she really likes shopping at local bookstores. And I'm somebody who, if I go anywhere, I'll always check to see if the book's on Amazon for cheaper. And there have been signs that I've seen that are like, can't use your phones on the premises because they don't want you doing it, which I get, but
our local Target's notorious for that. Like, a lot of times my wife will be walking around and I won't be able to call her. She wants to say, like, do we need milk or whatever? I can't make a call from within the store. There's no.
And you got to wonder if that is it the way the store is built, or are they deliberately trying to do that? Because I know, whenever I have my kids like Outback, so we'll go to Outback on occasion, and when you go there, you can't get a signal at all. And we've asked the waitress, and they're like, no, it's just the way the place is built. So they have no real reason to do it, but a Target has a reason to do it. Raymore Flanagan has a reason to do it. So it's just something to think about. It's our tinfoil hats are on with it.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously I'm the leading component for the conspiracy theories, but and to lead right into that, only it hasn't really, the mobile phone boom hasn't translated in people being any more careful with their personal information. Only 13% of people say they never share their personal information. More than 80%, that's despite the fact that more than 80% actually believe that their personal data is used by those companies, and that 78% still believe that personal data is shared with a third party. So they're saying they understand it, but they're still doing it. So I think that people are kind of realizing that this is the cost of doing business when working with a mobile phone, kind of, when you're using these apps and things like that. They're going to harvest this information, and for that you're going to get in return better prices or access to deals, that kind of thing. But again, it's a trade-off. You're giving your personal information and you don't know what they're doing with it.
And to kind of go to the right, back to mobile marketing as well, if anybody B2B is looking at that and saying, well, it's not really a factor for us anymore, I think the rise of mobile B2B marketing is a very, very underutilized area of a marketing campaign, and it's really untapped. And if you have people actually from a B2B perspective looking at their computer, but how many times are you grabbing your phone and maybe looking for something very similar to what's already on the computer? So keep that in mind, just a little B2B tip there.
And very briefly, we only have about a minute and a half left. These numbers surprised me a little bit in the sense that with Snapchat's third quarter earnings report about how they didn't want to focus on younger audiences as much, which is what a lot of their demographic and user base is. I think the statistic was 73% are using Snap, and yet we see here that about 93% penetration rate for a younger audience. So I'm surprised.
I'm sure they feel like they've saturated that market.
That's fair. Well, that's it for today's episode of the Commexis Cast Daily. Check us out tomorrow for more of the latest trending news. Have a great day.